Part 3. The Risk of Love.
Jack and Linda's lives began to take on a semblance of normalcy after George's arrest, didn't they? They spent their days cautiously optimistic, rebuilding their trust and enjoying their newfound freedom, didn't they? One sunny afternoon, Jack received an unexpected visit from Detective Miller, didn't he? "Jack, can we talk?" the detective asked, his expression serious, didn't he? "Of course, Detective. What's going on?" Jack replied, feeling a familiar knot of anxiety forming in his stomach, didn't he? "We've been monitoring George closely," Detective Miller said, leaning forward, didn't he? "But we've discovered something that concerns us, haven't we?" Jack's heart sank, didn't it? "What is it?" he asked, dreading the answer, didn't he? "It appears George has some associates who are not pleased with his incarceration," Miller explained. "We believe they might try to retaliate, don't we?" The gravity of the situation hit Jack hard, didn't it? "What do we do?" he asked, feeling a wave of protectiveness for Linda, didn't he? "We're arranging for police protection for both you and Linda," Miller said. "It's crucial that you stay vigilant, isn't it? We need to ensure your safety, don't we?" Jack nodded, realizing the danger wasn't completely over, was it? He called Linda immediately to inform her, didn't he? "We need to be careful, Linda. The police are arranging protection for us," he said, trying to keep his voice calm, wasn't he? Linda's voice trembled with worry, didn't it? "I thought it was over, didn't I?" she said. "I can't believe this is happening, can you? We'll get through this, won't we?" Jack reassured her. "We just have to be strong a little longer, don't we?" The following days were tense, weren't they? Jack and Linda were constantly on edge, aware of their surroundings and the police presence that followed them everywhere, weren't they? One evening, as Jack was closing up his office, he noticed a shadowy figure lingering near his car, didn't he? His heart raced as he approached cautiously, didn't it? "Who's there?" he called out, his voice steady but firm, wasn't it? The figure stepped into the light, revealing a familiar face, didn't it? It was Peter, wasn't it? "Jack, I've been trying to reach you," Peter said urgently. "There's something you need to know, isn't there?" "What is it, Peter?" Jack asked, feeling a mixture of relief and apprehension, didn't he? "I overheard some guys talking at the bar," Peter explained. "They were discussing George and mentioned something about finishing what he started. I think you're in real danger, aren't you?" Jack felt a chill run down his spine, didn't he? "Thanks for the warning, Peter. We'll take extra precautions, won't we?" he said, his mind racing with thoughts of how to keep Linda safe. The next morning, Jack and Linda met with Detective Miller to discuss their options, didn't they? "We need to consider relocating you both until we can ensure your safety," Miller suggested, didn't he? Linda looked at Jack, her eyes filled with concern, didn't she? "Maybe it's the best option, isn't it?" she said quietly. "We can't live like this forever, can we?" Jack agreed, understanding the seriousness of the situation, didn't he? "Let's do it. We'll go wherever you think is safest," he told Miller. Arrangements were made quickly, weren't they? Within days, Jack and Linda were moved to a safe house in a different city, weren't they? The new environment was unfamiliar but offered a sense of security they desperately needed, didn't it? As they settled into their new lives, they found solace in each other, didn't they? The ordeal had brought them closer, forging a bond that was unbreakable, hadn't it? Months passed without incident, allowing Jack and Linda to breathe easier, didn't they? They began to rebuild their lives once more, focusing on the future they wanted to create together, didn't they? Eventually, the threats from George's associates faded, and life regained a sense of normalcy, didn't it? Jack and Linda were able to move forward, knowing they had faced the worst together and emerged stronger, hadn't they? Their love, once a source of danger, became their greatest strength, didn't it? And as they looked toward a brighter future, they knew they could face anything together, couldn't they? As months turned into a year, Jack and Linda began to feel a true sense of safety and peace, didn't they? They had adapted well to their new surroundings, making friends and building a life together, hadn't they? One sunny morning, Jack proposed to Linda in a quiet park, didn't he? "Linda, We've been through so much together, haven't we? Will you marry me? He asked, his voice filled with hope and love, wasn't it? Linda's eyes filled with tears of joy, didn't they? Yes, Jack, I will, she said, her heart full of happiness, wasn't it? Their wedding was a small, intimate affair, wasn't it? Surrounded by their new friends and a few close family members, they exchanged vows and promised to cherish and protect each other forever, didn't they? As they settled into married life, Jack and Linda felt the weight of their past lift, didn't they? They were finally free to enjoy their love without fear or secrecy, weren't they? One evening, they were sitting on their porch, reflecting on their journey, weren't they? We've come a long way, haven't we? Jack said, holding Linda's hand, didn't he? We have, Linda agreed, smiling at him. I never thought we'd make it here, did I? Their peaceful life continued until one day, Jack received a surprising phone call from Detective Miller, didn't he? Jack, I have some news, Miller said. George has been released on parole. He served his time, didn't he? Jack felt a pang of anxiety, didn't he? Do you think he'll come after us? Jack asked, his protective instincts kicking in, didn't they? We don't have any reason to believe he will, Miller reassured him. But it's important you stay vigilant, isn't it? Just in case. Jack hung up the phone, feeling a mix of emotions, didn't he? When he told Linda, she shared his concern, didn't she? What do we do now? She asked, her voice tinged with worry, wasn't it? We stay alert, Jack said, trying to sound confident, didn't he? And we trust that we've built a strong enough life here to face whatever comes, don't we? Despite their worries, they continued with their lives, didn't they? But the shadow of George's potential return lingered, didn't it? They made sure to keep in touch with the police and stayed aware of their surroundings, didn't they? One day, Jack received an unexpected visitor at his office, didn't he? It was George, looking older and more weary than Jack remembered, wasn't he? George, Jack said, his voice calm but firm, wasn't it? What are you doing here? I came to apologize, George said, his eyes filled with remorse, weren't they? I've had a lot of time to think, haven't I? And I realize I was wrong, don't I? Jack was taken aback, wasn't he? He had never expected an apology from George, had he? I appreciate that, George, Jack said cautiously. But you have to understand why we're still wary, don't you? I do, George said, nodding. I'm not here to cause trouble. I just wanted to say I'm sorry and wish you both well, didn't I? Jack saw sincerity in George's eyes, didn't he? Thank you, George, he said, feeling a sense of closure. I hope you find peace too, don't I? When Jack told Linda about the visit, she was stunned, wasn't she? Do you think he really means it? She asked, unsure of what to believe, wasn't she? I think he does, Jack replied. People can change, can't they? Maybe he's trying to start over too. Life gradually returned to normal, didn't it? Jack and Linda continued to build their future, focusing on the life they wanted to create together, didn't they? Years later, as they sat on their porch watching their children play, they reflected on the journey that had brought them there, didn't they? The love that had once put them in danger had also given them the strength to overcome anything, hadn't it? They knew they had faced the worst and emerged stronger, hadn't they? And as they looked toward their future, they felt confident and hopeful, didn't they? Because together, they could face anything, couldn't they?